Hope you're enjoying the history of the Bible. Let's continue on here in Israel and then travel to Rome to tell the story of the Christian Bible and how it started spreading around the Mediterranean. Jesus of Nazareth was born during the Second Temple period of the Jewish people. The story of his birth, ministry, death, and resurrection motivated the writing of the New Testament. The teachings of Jesus were first spread by word of mouth. This was followed by written accounts of his ministry, known as the Gospels, and letters of instruction. The book of Acts is a history of the first years of the Christian church and its spread throughout the Mediterranean. Let's go check out a few discoveries related to the religious texts of this new Christian movement. And there's no better way to drive through Israel than my trusty vintage Jeep. What it lacks in comfort, it more than makes up for with a worn-out clutch. There's still no better way to take in all the history of this amazing place. After leaving Nazareth, Jesus established his ministry around the Sea of Galilee. According to the Gospel texts, the town of Capernaum became home base for his teaching and travels. By historical accounts, Capernaum was a booming fishing town on the main Roman highway linking Damascus in Syria to Alexandria in Egypt. Capernaum was one of the northernmost towns in the region of Galilee, governed by Herod Antipas. This impressive white limestone synagogue dates to the 4th century AD. But right down here, underneath it, lies a 1st century AD black basalt synagogue, one of the oldest Jewish synagogues in the world. Remarkably, that structure dates to the period that Jesus would have taught here. Just south of this synagogue are the ruins of an ancient house originally constructed in the 2nd century BC. This black basalt house has an early tradition as being the home of Peter from the Gospel accounts. The house was converted to a simple church, and most scholars agree that this is one of the earliest Christian houses of worship yet discovered. Our next stop is Rome, to witness the next chapter in the story of Christianity. And if you're going to go to Rome, what better car to drive than a fly yellow Alfa Romeo? This car looks good even when it's leaking fuel on the side of the road. Never a good thing. Okay, so we lose a few cool points when the production crew has to push start. The story of Christianity spread throughout the Mediterranean region despite severe persecution. Copies of the New Testament circulated among Christians throughout the Middle East and in Southern Europe. Attacks against the Christian text peaked in AD 303 when Roman Emperor Diocletian ordered the destruction of all Christian writings. However, about 25 years later, Emperor Constantine commissioned the production of 50 copies of the Christian Bible, and over the next several decades, the Roman Empire finally embraced the cultural influence of Christianity. During this same period, Jews also suffered persecution under Roman rule. Following years of tension, 3 major Jewish revolts broke out against Rome. The first saw the destruction of Jerusalem and the Holy Temple in AD 70. The Arch of Titus, here in Rome, gives a powerful testimony to the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70. The entire city, including the temple, were utterly destroyed by the Romans under Titus. This arch depicts the looting of the temple treasures. Later failed revolts further scattered the Jewish people in a diaspora stretching from Spain to India. At the same time, there developed renewed emphasis on an inner spiritual life centered on the great collections of rabbinic teaching, Mishnah, Talmud, and Midrash that were brought to completion after the Christianization of the Roman Empire. This was an era in which synagogue worship replaced temple sacrifice, and study of the Torah became a sacred duty for all Jews. The synagogue became a miniature temple that was carried by the Jews to all the lands of their exile, lands in which they would continue to make great strides in the study of the Bible and the Jewish tradition. Between the 5th and 10th centuries, Jewish scholars added a system of notation and punctuation to the Hebrew Bible, completing the Masoretic text. This version spread throughout the world and became the standard for interpreting the Hebrew Bible. Over the following centuries, as the Samaritan tradition anchored itself in northern Israel and the Jewish faith spread in enclaves throughout the Roman Empire and beyond, numerous Christian traditions emerged, including the Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, and Assyrian Church of the East. All of these faith traditions claimed and used some portion of the Bible. While some perspectives on the Bible did not endure, other traditions, such as the many Protestant churches, would not emerge for hundreds of years.